Hello, everybody, and welcome to the August edition of the Navy Public Affairs Regional Mentoring Seminar. I know we're doing a little more of these in person, but it's always important for us to do some of these webinars remotely, so that way you guys can listen to the recordings later. And today we have another guest for our August session, and her name is Mel Weatherspoon. She is a retired Master Chief in the Navy. And I have known Mel since my very early days in public affairs. She knew me as an ensign when I was a surface warfare officer at PAC Fleet. And over the years, after PAC Fleet, I went to NPACE. She followed me throughout my career, our ups and downs. We know each other's families. We have quite the history together. There's really no person I can think of who knows me as well as Mel does, or goes as back as far as she does with our community. So she is now at DIMFO. She is the mobile training team manager. And I'm going to turn it over to her to tell me a little bit more about who she is and what she does.
Well, thank you. And I do remember those early days at PAC Fleet when then Senior Chief Weatherspoon was helping you out. And as you entered into the community from the USS Russell, if I do believe. Yes. So those were good times, busy times, I would tell you, back in the office at US Pacific Fleet. Most busiest shore duty I had in my entire career.
All right.
I might as well have been deployed.
Royal and what else? The missile shoot. I remember that you were very busy on that. Yeah. Yep. There were a lot of good times there.
I remember Mr. Yoshishige saying, Mel, you're not to be on duty. You get more OPREP 3 Navy Blues than anybody I've ever seen. I think one week of duty, I had 7. Anyway, I'm not going to digress into that. I am Mel Weatherspoon, otherwise known as retired Master Chief Mel Weatherspoon. And I retired after 26 years in Navy Public Affairs, did my entire career in Navy Public Affairs. Was a journalist senior chief when we merged in 2006. So I've been around the block a lot. Just a real quick rundown of my career. Started after DINFOS at the Naval Submarine Base Kings Bay Public Affairs. So really that was an interesting time for me coming into public affairs, for one, because the submarine community wasn't really that transparent. And I was female. So still female, but that was an interesting job to come out of school when the submarine community was just really opening up to show people who they were. And it was great. I loved that tour of duty. I did a humanitarian assistance, an IA, before they were called IAs, to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, amidst the migrant crisis in the mid to late 90s. From there, I went to Jacksonville, Florida, at a Fleet Hospital. Was there 3 days and deployed to Haiti as part of a Fleet Hospital. I was their public affairs person for the entire Fleet Hospital in Haiti, and got really involved in that support group, or that JTF, if you will, there. So that was fun. And then I went to the Carl Vinson, which is the greatest ship in the Navy. I am recording this, so no one can refute that, which is great. Great times on USS Carl Vinson. From there, I went to DINFOS as an instructor, and then off to Pacific Fleet, where I met Teresa. Then where did I go? Then I went to the Center for Service Support, where I wrote curriculum, the very first rate training manuals for the MC community.
I remember that.
A lot with the Supply Corps, actually, which was fun. And then I went to Combat Camera. Then I went to NPACE. And then I went to DMA. And then now here I am. The cool thing that I think really got me in the door at DINFOS, where I'm currently working, is my last 5 months in the Navy after I left as the senior enlisted advisor for the Defense Media Activity. I worked to stand up the Public Affairs Training and Education Council for the public affairs and visual information community. So that really got me back in the door at DINFOS. I realized very quickly that really that's where I wanted to be based on my career of being an instructor, a curriculum developer, writing the MC test, writing the MC rate training manuals, and education and training was really, really what interested me the most. So started out as a contract employee after I retired, and then here I am as the mobile training team program manager. Ironically, 10 days after my hire, we went into quarantine. And as the mobile training team program manager, I'm like, okay, what does this mean? So in true Mel fashion, I figured it out. And since that time, I've trained over 1,000 people since COVID virtually.
Wow.
I'm going to spend a little bit of time here talking about the mobile training team program, but then I want to talk to you about some other things that the schoolhouse is doing that I think is really important for folks' careers. And I want to make sure that you kind of know what's going on around Infos. So
right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that'll probably be my first question, because people really don't know or understand what is the mobile training team. So Can you kind of give a background for what exactly that is, and how people go about requesting services, or what?
Absolutely. So we've been doing ad hoc pickup game mobile training teams for decades. Even when I was here in the early 2000s as an instructor, I went to several mobile training teams. But that was just a pickup game. There wasn't an established program. Several field grade officers over the years had it as a collateral duty. And then we were blessed to have Commander Katie Ceriso as the collateral duty public affairs MTT program manager at DINFOS. And she and her predecessor really worked hard to make this a legit program and hire a civilian on to manage the program so that it's not just a pickup game, that it's an established program that is marketed, it's getting out there and really making a difference in the public affairs and visual information community within the Department of Defense. So that's kind of how all of that, how that all came about. So she hired me on. I got to work with her for several months, and I'm so blessed. I'm actually getting ready to go out to Japan in April to do a mobile training team function for her. So I'm pretty excited. She's now my client, which is really cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I love her. Shout out, love her to death. So anyway, the mobile training team can be broken down into 3 lines of effort at the schoolhouse. The first one is very, very important, and it's skill gap training. And that's where if you in your shop or in your command, you realize that you have a skill gap in your team. For example, I was just talking to the Joint Program Office this morning down in Crystal City, and they have a couple of their employees who really need executive level writing. They need some writing focus, like the writing process, executive level writing press releases. And so what I do is I work with them and I look at the learning objectives that they're trying to get to. Like, what is their desired end state? What are they trying to improve? And I dig through the curriculum of stuff that's already available through DINFOS, and I tailor the training for them.
Okay.
For example, I've put together a 3-hour what is public affairs in the communication planning process that I can give virtually at the drop of a hat. So, but that's kind of what we do. It's a skill gap close. What is it that you need? And I've done a lot virtually. Right now I'm working with U.S. Army Alaska to go we're actually sending a Marine Corps sergeant to Alaska to do some graphics training on how to build an infographic. She did some virtual training in August or this month, and now she's going boots on the ground to do a hands-on 2-day build an infographic with these folks. But she gave them homework from the time that we did the virtual training until she leaves. So they'll be working on some stuff, and then she'll be there 2 days to literally help them build an infographic. So that's kind of what skill gap training is. And I can do that if you're getting ready to deploy and you need just a real quick refresher on something, we can do that. We can do it virtually, we can do it in person, or we can do a hybrid model of both. Now, the in-person training costs you money. If you need me to go boots on the ground, you have to pay me travel and per diem for my instructors, and that's it. Just travel and per diem, and I can get to you and train you and bring my expertise from the brick and mortar school to you. So that's the major line of effort that I'm working on. Matter of fact, I just got an email yesterday from ESG3, and we're going to be talking on how I can help them possibly with some social media training with their media departments out there in ESG3. So I have a call tomorrow in with them. So that's pretty exciting.
Are you helping the collateral duty PAOs? You know, that's my soft spot. Or is there any training available?
Well, I built that collateral duty training that when I was at MPACE for them. What we would just need to do is really look at the learning objectives. What's your end result? And then we tailor that training for that. The cool thing is, even Guard and Reserve, I work weekends. I can flex my hours to work weekends and train your Guard and Reserve. So that's really cool. I flex for time zones. I flex for your time the best that I can. So that's the line of effort of skill gap training. Any questions on that, you think?
Yeah, I think that my other question is, and I'm going to turn my car on. Hopefully we don't lose the sound. So I do apologize, but I got to get some AC going in here. But can you still hear me? I want to make sure you can still hear me.
No, I cannot.
Can't hear me. Okay.
Hold on. No, there you are back again.
Because you can hear me. I can't hear you. Hold on. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now I have my AC going. All right. So my question is, how do you guys decide who gets support? Because I know that there's going to be all these commands that are going to come to you and say, help me, help me. How are you guys racking and stacking, or how are you trying to gather certain commands together to make the best bang for the buck as people start to come to you?
So right now I haven't had to turn anybody down within the DOD as long as we provide that training. I mean, if it's something I can't provide, I can't provide it. So right now it's first come, first serve, and instructor availability, because I don't have a team dedicated just for as of right now. Fingers crossed, toes crossed, and I'll be able to get, some dedicated instructors just for me as my demand continues to grow. So for skill gap training, it's usually first come, first serve, and or what instructor availability I have. So you might ask me first, but I don't have an instructor available for you until like next month. But this person coming behind you, I have an instructor that I can teach, that can teach next week. Also keep in mind, as a career public affairs specialist, I train too. So if I can do it, I'll do it. So I also teach when I can, and I'm not going to say I'm an expert at everything, but I'm not. But there's some things I know how to do pretty well. So
yeah, you've been around for a little while.
I'm a trained instructor, so I can do that too. So that's kind of how that works. If that answers your question.
It does. It does. So the mobile training team, you said that was one of your lines of effort. Then did you go into the other ones?
I did not. So my second line of effort is really cool. It's really starting to take off. And it's one of the ways I'm going out to see Commander Naval Forces Japan in April, and that I can export the Intermediate Public Affairs Specialist course, the entire course. It's a 2-week course. I have 3 sessions dedicated to MTT support every fiscal year. Right now I have 2 of them filled. One for Commander Naval Forces Japan in April, and one for Army Hawaii arduous duty. Army Hawaii next September. So I do have a June availability if folks wanted to get together and say, hey, we'll pay for 2 instructors to come to you. And the cool thing about that is I bring the course to you, and your instructors or your students, your sailors, get this course certificate and course credit as if they came here to the schoolhouse.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
a short course.
Wow.
So that one's in like trial period right now, because that's really the only 2-week course I have that I can export right now. But I'm looking at a couple more that I can export. I wanted to export the MCF +4 writing course, but they have now decided to make that a virtual course anyway. So that doesn't really make sense. Unless somebody really wanted to pay my instructors to come to them for that course, they will be able to get that one virtually here soon. The visual information management course, which I think is changing over to be the resource management course. I'm keeping an eye on that one because I may try to get that one to where I can take that one on the road. And like I said, the best part about that is they get full credit, ACE credit, the diploma and everything.
Right, right.
You're actually in the school. So for example, I could go out to an NPACE, right? And bring my iPass, and it's just like you sent 24 people to me. Now, one of the questions you asked a minute ago was, do you share like resources with other organizations? If there are seats available, they can go out and share those, right?
Okay.
And then I also do like this 3-hour social media thing that I do a lot with our social media team. And if I can get a lot of people into that, right? So if I have a unit that asks for that, I'll offer it up to other places within that time zone or geographic region and say, come on, because that's a virtual event. So like iPass, if, for example, CNFJ is funding it, but she can give those 24 seats to anybody she wants to.
Sure. No, this is great. And after we do this interview and I get this posted on YouTube, I'll go ahead and share this video in some of the DIMFOS Facebook groups, because I think that there's a lot of people who will want to use these services, but sometimes they don't take the time to just immerse themselves in what's being offered and really getting and understanding the process for how they can take advantage of requesting you guys and bringing you to them, or like you say, just being able to conduct a virtual course.
Right.
I think is important, because that way they at least get some of the training. So that's your second line of effort.
So the third line of effort, I'm not really going to dig into right now.
Okay.
And that is supporting our allies and partners overseas through the combatant commands. So if there's somebody from a combatant command who watches this, they just need to get in touch with me and we'll work that out. But I don't really want to focus on that one right now. That's some processes that I'm currently building. I did just send a team to Morocco in pre-exercise support of African lion. And that was very successful. They taught Moroccan folks prior to the exercise. So that was really, 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 really successful. And but those processes are kind of in the works. So, but if anybody wanted to talk to me about that, I'll make sure they have my email, and then we can go on from there. So those are mainly my 3 lines of effort. But I did want to say, oh, my little doggies are trying to leave the room. I have 4 rescue dogs, and
yay!
And 2 rescue cats, but the 2 rescue cats went to California with my daughter, and now I have 4 dogs. Anyway, I digress. So how do you request Mel in my MTT program?
Yes. Yeah. What is the process?
So it's pretty simple. I am working on a new request form, which I'm hoping to get out within the next 3 months. However, in the meantime, the best thing to do is either give me a call, and I'll make sure you have my number and my email, or email me and say, hey, Mel, I want to chat with you about this. My email address is just mweatherspoon@dinfos.edu. Simple, easy peasy.
And we'll make sure that that's on the show notes as well. We'll post that in the link description.
Or link up with me on LinkedIn and send me a message on there. That works too. The best thing to do is just tell me you have a need. I do prefer, once we establish you have a need, I do prefer phone conversations or video conversations so we can really get to what is your desired end state? What is it you're trying to do? What skill are you trying to close the knowledge gap on? Do you need iPass? Whatever that is, I really want to get to the nitty gritty, because I want to tailor the training that you need that will help you get to your end result. So
Yep.
phone call and email. There's a link on DINFOS website under academics, or LinkedIn, whatever, however you, Facebook, I don't know. However you want to get a hold of me. I'll give you a little hint. Navy kind of has an inside track, so that's okay. I'm not angry about that by any means. So there's that. But one of the ways you can also get a hold of me is through Pavilion, which is, you know, I'm going to use my segue, my transition into Pavilion. But before I do that, any other questions you think might pop up about MTTs?
No. I think I was just going to close with the fact that I think it's good that you do the back and forth conversations, because sometimes as a requester, you may think you need one service, but it isn't until you start talking about your end state and what you're trying to accomplish that you realize that you need something different. That's why it's so important to have that conversation and that back and forth with you guys before moving on.
Absolutely.
But we can go ahead and now transition to what are some of the services that I've noticed in the last, by the way, I've noticed in the last couple of years that DINFOS has just blown up in terms of resourcing, like the Pavilion. Now you guys got the, we'll talk about this as well. You've got the online, the live sessions. You've got Hal Pittman doing those very intimate interviews on Divids. There just seems to be, and that's more DMA, I know, but there just
we're DMA too. So
well, you guys are DMA as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, just so
you know, stole that idea from me, by the way. You know, that's a funny story. I did my deep dive with him when he came on board. Next thing I know, he's doing a Facebook Live. Facebook Live was born out of, holy crap, I'm a mobile training team manager, and I asked my boss, sir, what's your definition of mobile? And he said, I don't know, Mel, you tell me what your definition of mobile is. I'm like, sir, I'm not so sure you understand what you're asking of me, because if you give Mel free reign, you better watch out. So there, you know, I went virtual with my training. Like I said, I've trained over 1,000 people virtually since COVID. I came up with the idea, why not do a DINFOS Live via Facebook? And I do want to plug that. So DINFOS Live is typically the last Wednesday of every month on Facebook. Now, we understand a lot of people can't get on there live. We do get usually a pretty good audience that's going to ask questions for everyone. But then we put them on our YouTube page. So DINFOS has a YouTube page. If you just search DINFOS Official, you'll have all of our DINFOS Live videos. You have the social media forum videos from previous social media forums. And then hopefully we'll get the new social media forum videos up after this week. So a plug for that. DINFOS social media forum kicks off on Wednesday. And so I'll be actively watching that.
Oh, yeah. You guys have a great lineup.
I know. Isn't it exciting?
You've got the TRADOC commander. I was just looking at your guest list. You guys got some heavy hitters. And I think you said on your last live that more than 1,400 people have signed up. That is a great.
And you know, it's funny. The week prior to that, there was only 799. And then we were doing some extra marketing. Next thing I know, we have 1,400 people, right? So we could even have more. And the funny thing is, you know who's watching? We have a retired PAO who called me and said, hey, can the Sea Cadets watch that? I'm like, absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's Jennifer Craig. Oh, my God.
Yeah, so she called me and she's like, hey, can they watch? I'm like, absolutely. So that's another point. Everything that I do as far as mobile training is mainly centered around the DoD visual information and public affairs community. Active duty, reserve, National Guard, and civilians, right? That's who my audience is, and that's how I can support you. Now, you know, that's just how it works. But anyway, that DINFOS Live, I just wanted to put a little plug into that. In September, we're going to be focused on what's hot in visual storytelling with our intermediate photojournalism course folks who are going to be on live. And again, those live events are recorded and put on YouTube, DINFOS Official. Now, as I was saying a minute ago about Pavilion, you can go through the bottom of the main page on Pavilion, and it says request an MTT.
Okay.
Right now, as we move over to Pavilion, I'm going to pull up my 3x5 note cards to make sure that I hit that hit that one before. And then I have one more thing I really want to talk to everybody about at the very end, so I hope I don't go too long. But Pavilion launched officially in April 2021, and it really is tailored toward the DoD community, other government agencies, as well as our international partners. Right now it's free. It doesn't require a CAC. It's pavilion.dinfos.edu. So it's easy to get to. It's open source. So like I said, it's not behind a CAC enabler. However, in the future, it could go that way. But really, it's tailored toward our community. And you can get information a couple of different ways. There's reference material that includes checklists, templates, policy and doctrine that you can download. There's learning activities like articles, how-tos, and case studies. But my favorite is the practice items. There's exercises, knowledge checks, and simulations. For example, there's one knowledge check I think is pretty cool. It's about social media, and it shows you posts like photos that are posted, and it asks you questions about it. So you have to put on your public affairs hat and answer those questions on, was it a good post or a bad post, and why? That's great. It really is interactive. So that it's also mobile friendly. There's not an app per se, but if you can, I don't remember how it's done, but I know if you go on your phone and go to the link, it actually allowed me to put a widget on my cell phone. And I can get more details for that if anybody's interested. But I know there's smarter tech people out there than me, so that I can click on it and it'll pull up on my phone. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool because you can pull up a checklist in a pinch.
Oh, I know. And I'll tell you, I've already been on the Pavilion several times when I was doing I was working on a joint task force handbook, a handbook for Gypsy, the former JPACE. And it was very useful to go on there and download some of the very basic RTQ fact sheet.
Yeah.
You guys have everything there, comms plans.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, we shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to, like you said, those kind of basic checklists. And so to have those templates available for I wouldn't say for the fleet, for the Joint Force and the civilians and Reserve and National Guard. And I think it's just really an incredible service that you guys are providing.
So it's really, to tag team. I use Pavilion a lot in my MTTs. For example, I'll, pull up some articles on Pavilion and give people read-aheads prior to an MTT event. I'll give it to, if it's a multi-day event, I'll give them homework to read Pavilion for the following day's course, or something to really emphasize what we have learned that day. And then I also give them, hey, if you want to do a deeper dive, here's more things that you can explore. And I really think the two go hand in hand. And a matter of fact, as the MTT program manager, I'm on the user planning group for the Pavilion, because we share, like, what's the hottest topic? What are people searching? What are people asking me for? And that's actually how DINFOS Live was born. All of a sudden, I started seeing Pavilion has some hot topics. I got some hot topics. Why don't we just push it to you?
Right.
So more people can watch and get information at that time. So it's also easy because it's very user friendly. You can explore by a collection of stuff.
You can put something in the search bar on it, and it'll just pull up whatever it is that you're interested in finding out. So no, I think it's a really good resource, and I'm very appreciative. Like I said, just in the past, I guess I would just say in the past couple years, and maybe it was Katie being there, part of that, and just get, turnover. But you guys really, between the Pavilion, the lives, the social media conference, it's really nice to see so much support for those of us that may not be able to go to DINFOS and take courses, and I think I
remember growing up in the Navy, getting to come back here for a course was dang near impossible sometimes. It's too valuable at your command. The command didn't have money.
Right.
You're going to be away from the office too long, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the beauty of it is you have people here in the schoolhouse who've been in your shoes. We understand what it's like coming up in the community and just being hungry for training. So why, and today's technology, why not bring the brick and mortar to you when we can? It's still very important to be in the schoolhouse for a lot of training because number one, you want to get those certificates of completion for ACE accreditation, for stuff like that. You want those things, but when you need a skill gap closure, you know, whether it's Pavilion and MTT, both, it's really important that we become the center of excellence for our community. And that's kind of our mindset. How can we become the center of excellence for our community? And we really believe in that. And now we have one of our own DoD public affairs professional back at the helm at the Defense Media Activity. And, you know, I mean, I knew him before, but a lot of people didn't realize, and he's made it very clear, think outside the box, be creative, be innovative, which is when I deep dive, when he first came on and I was telling him about this cool idea I had for Dinfos Live, he was like, go get him, Mel, go do it. Next thing I know, he's got center stage. I'm like, hey, you stole my coveted guest. It's the guest I wanted. And he said, no, Mel, you got to wait a little while, let him get used to the seat. And I'll be daggone if you didn't steal John Kirby right out from underneath me. I will get John Kirby on Dinfos Live. I'm just telling you. If you're watching, sir. So anyway, going back to Pavilion, it's really, you can, we batch load. For example, every quarter we focus on a topic. Back in May, we batch loaded a bunch of writing stuff. So if you go in the browser and just hit writing and search, you're going to find a plethora of stuff. In August, the big batch was crisis communication. So I implore everybody to go in there and just type in crisis communication and just see all the stuff that we just uploaded in August. I'm not real sure what's coming up in the future, but I think they might be going a little VI on us coming up here in the next quarter. So, but another thing I really want to share is you can get involved. You can be a part of this. And let me tell you some of the ways you can do that. Let me get some water real quick. I'm usually talking to my dog, so.
It's all good, all good.
Yeah, so the ways that you can get involved is you can recommend a source. If you have a template, if you have something that really worked in your job and you want to share it with everybody, I know the Navy has a CHIMFO portal, but if you want to share it with the entire fleet, you're more than welcome to get a hold of the Pavilion folks and say, I got this great thing I want to share. And then they'll work through the process with you.
Absolutely. In fact, an example of that was when Nick Belize and some of my other leadership came there and visited with you guys. And now we're collaborating together and working on some of the resources that we have to work with you guys. So no, I've seen that.
I got some great things in the works for Gypsy PA. I'm hoping, cross my fingers and toes. Another way you can get involved is to participate as a SME. If you feel like you are a subject matter expert in some area and you want to help, you can send them a note in their contact page and say, hey, I would really, really like to be involved as a SME. You can be a part of a testing group. So you can be people that, beta test some of the products that come out. We really need a Navy flavor on there. So if anybody would be interested in that. And then you can just provide feedback if you're interested in doing that. Because the more we use this platform, we're going to be able to get the funding to continue it, to grow it. And that's really what it comes down to is we have to grow it and we have to maintain it, but we need people to be using it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to validate why you need it. So it has moved on to the AFPIMS platform, if you're familiar with that, which is run by DMA. So that's helpful because now it's kind of all in-house. But I will tell you, Pavilion has so many benefits. You can use it in your training plans for your people. You can show them how to, and if they want to do some things on their own, we always had Navy knowledge online or whatever, all that stuff. Now this is tailored just to our community. So that, it's exciting. And if you have any issues with anything, they listen, they fix stuff, they work with you. And we really do want this to be a whole DoD public affairs and VI community effort because it belongs to us. I mean, how exciting would you imagine in your first few years in public affairs having something like this?
I didn't.
I think this is really good for collateral duty PAs. But I will caution, one of the things I'd like to hit home with my MTT program is if you have somebody that's new to the program, don't unleash them on Pavilion and say, go find out, go learn about public affairs. Give me a call. I'll do a public affairs fundamental virtual session, even a one-on-one if you needed me to, and say, this is what public affairs is all about. This is what we do. This is how Pavilion can help you. But don't get lost in Pavilion if you don't want, if you know, it's not necessary. If you have a question, reach out. And on the reverse side of that, if you're going through and doing a lot of Pavilion and you're like, and I would really like my people, now that we've done all these Pavilion things, to really talk to a SME at the schoolhouse, call me up and, you know, we can get a talking head. And so you can ask questions. Sure. You know, we did all these Pavilion trainings, but we have questions on this.
Right.
That's the beauty of it.
No, I think it's an incredibly valuable resource, and hopefully people who are watching this will take advantage of what you guys are offering, and they'll be better off for it. Is there any other services or anything that I haven't asked you about that you wanted to touch upon?
Well, there are a couple of things I did want to point out once you gave me the opportunity. I know Mel likes to talk, and I apologize, I keep talking.
No.
I want you all to know what the Public Affairs Training and Education Council is. The Public Affairs Training and Education Council was born out of the old Board of Governors for DINFOS. We decided we needed a more hands-on approach because, let's face it, our CHINFO and his equivalents are very, very busy. Now, they are the executive level Public Affairs Training and Education Council headed by Mr. Kirby right now at OSDPA, right? And then the DMA director, that's like the executive level of the Public Affairs Training and Education Council. They're the ones who are coming together to talk about training and education for our community, which includes DINFOS. DINFOS, we know, is not the end all for our community, but it's a large chunk of public affairs, training and education for our DOD, PA, and VI community. So they're the executive level. Underneath that is a working group. And we all know that's where things get done. You know, they created a military communicator competency model. And that is available on the DINFOS website under academics. You can see the military communicator competency model for officers enlisted from novice to expert. There's 3 different levels: novice, intermediate, and expert. And you can see the tasks that we need to be able to do at those levels as voted on by this PAYTEC.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
So if you can't find it, I'll be more than happy to share the link with Teresa, and you can take a look at it. It's really cool. So that competency model is what we're basing all of the training on. And that in turn is based on what the Public Affairs Training and Education Council says we need to be training. So that's really, really important, I think, because I don't know if we ever had anything like that before.
No. And that's a really holistic, agreed upon, consensus driven.
You've got it. I will make sure you have the link, but I'll make sure you have the link, like I said, and then check it out and tell me what you think. So that's PAYTEC in a nutshell. They meet, the working group meets at least once a month. The executive level, they do a real quick once a quarter, but then twice a year they come together to when they have to vote on something, when something has to be voted on. And then the only entity right now outside of DOD is the Coast Guard, because they are a big user and proponent of DINFOS. So the PAYTEC. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the new Public Affairs Communication Strategy Qualification course. This course has replaced the old PAQC. Okay. It's now Public Affairs and Communication Strategy Qualification course. One of the parts of that, well, let me backtrack for a second. We have moved from being a tactical-based public affairs training course to a strategic and critical thinking course that is not just teach me how to write a press release, teach me how to do a press conference. It really does get into strategic and critical thinking and being a better asset to the operator as a key element of the information environment. So I want to share that with everybody.
No, it's really good. And that's where we're all going in terms of using our PI and our accreditations that we have, not just with PRSA, but all the other organizations that work with us. So no, it's really important.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you can go online, again, under academics and take a look at that under the course catalog, which is really cool. But one part I want to bring out about the new course. In order for these people to graduate, they have to successfully complete a capabilities board. They set a board. Okay, so let me explain this board to you. There's 4 members on this board, 3 of whom are instructors, and then they have a non-voting advisor role that can come from anywhere. Any of you, I'm looking at all of you, if you're listening to this, can be a part of this if you're interested. And what that is every student has to brief this board, and it's a way of the board recognizing that that student understands their role in public affairs or communication strategy, and they're going to be able to move beyond that course and be an asset to our community. And they have to pass it.
Nice. Okay? No, and they're going to, that's so cool because they're going to also get the opinion of somebody out, who's out doing the job. I can't want to say out in the fleet or joint. And so, that's just going to be amazing because they're going to get that feedback in real time and
they're briefing people, right? So being able to brief someone and put together a brief is not always easy. So that to me is awesome. So if anybody is interested in that, please let Teresa know and I'll get you guys the details. But if you could just, if you wanted to set a board, that's one of the things we're working with Gypsy PA on, in that to bring some of those people up to set these capabilities boards.
Yeah,
it's an all-day event.
It's going to start with creating a volunteer email distro. I know that's how calls to mind, like Michael Henry from the APR online course. He just has a huge distro, and anytime he does his webinars, he always has facilitators that volunteer, and it's just a rotating list.
It's awesome.
But it's amazing opportunity because, like, for us, the ones that I do, he creates these nice little graphics, and then we get to know everybody who sits the board with us, and it's an amazing experience and good for professional development. I volunteer every session to do at least one. So
that's a great thing.
I'm happy to help.
So that's really, really good. So I wanted to make sure that we offered up that opportunity.
Okay. Absolutely.
And I guess the bottom line, as we get to a close, is if you have a need, give me a holler. And if it's something we can do, we're going to do it. We recognize that today's technology with COVID and all this stuff and the importance of training and education of our community, all we can do is say no, right? And I don't say no very often because I have a passion for making sure our people have the training and education they need. Our job as a communicator is of the utmost importance, and we all see it right now.
Absolutely.
We need to be trained and ready to be that asset to the operators, and not just as a good staff advisor, but a valuable member of the staff at all levels, to demonstrate that we are a valuable key player in the information environment. And that's Mel's soapbox. I'm glad that you asked me to come on. We're doing lots of cool things. Again, my email is mweatherspoon@denfos.edu. And if you're interested, give me a call. I've got 4 Navy requests in the last week, which is cool. I'm so excited. And don't be afraid to share what I've shared with you with your reserve counterparts. Admiral Dunn would be really mad at me if I didn't support the community. So I'm here for you, whatever you need. Just give me a holler.
Awesome. Well, Mel, I want to thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop record button here on the call here. So hold on just